Arteta! What a strike! What a screamer! Zola! And a fantastic goal! Arsenal back in it! Here's Limpar, lines it up, finds the net. Arsenal in front.
And there won't be points in Burnley's house this Christmas time. The only thing they're getting is sent down. Ashley Barnes was turning blue in his post-match interview. Sean Dyche is Tony Pulis after all. This is the Arsenal Vision post-match podcast. My name is Elliot Smith, and you can block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. Merry Christmas! Ho, ho, ho. May all the Sean Dyches be miserable through all the land. I hope that Ashley Barnes is somewhere getting two-footed by the waitstaff at a restaurant. I hope that whole vicious pack of snide Fowley cunts is off being miserable and wind up getting relegated at the end of the season. And here to celebrate that eventuality with me is Paul. You can find him on Twitter at Paz in my pants. Hello, Paz.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Jack Frost nipping at your nose.
Jack Cork nipping at your ankles.
Your heels.
Yeah.
John Cross nipping. No.
Anyway, Paul, thank you for that. Clive's on Twitter at Clive PAFC. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
We weren't intending to have Clive on, but we accidentally called him and he answered, so now he's on the podcast. He's supposed to be spending this time with his family, but I heard them in the background saying we can keep him, so we're doing it. He's finally found a home. Welcome home, Clive.
They love me, really.
Yeah.
As they started eating and drinking and kicked me out of my chair. So I'm here, right?
I think the word is breadwinner. I think that's what you get.
I know my job. I know my job.
Exactly. Put that food. We put food on your family is what George W. Bush once said. Anyway, moving aside, let's talk about the hilarity that was the Arsenal-Burnley match. And Clive, because I have no idea how long you'll be here, I'll start with you. How funny.
He'll be here for the whole thing.
Yeah.
I keep telling you.
He'll be here long after Paul and I are gone. He'll just be talking into the microphone.
Once I start, it's difficult for me to stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, especially when I haven't got a strong point.
No, all right. No, I if you missed the last episode of the podcast, Clive got very, very heated about something that he has no strong perspective on, which I thought was quite interesting. Let's talk about Sean Dyche real quick. How worried should we be about the children? Like, should we be very worried about the children? I mean, are Arsenal a threat to the youth of tomorrow?
Bless him. I mean, I'll tell you what, a couple of different decisions, that could be the England manager quite easily, right? So it's quite interesting when you see a team or see a guy that did really well previous years and has done really well to get Burnley where they are, but then suddenly he's in a bit of trouble. And then you default to your real personality, and he has turned into rather than the ginger Mourinho, he's the ginger Tony Pulis now, isn't he? Right.
Yep.
So and they are Stoke City, and now people are going to notice that they're Stoke City. And I remember watching they just lost to Spurs in the last minute, and I was pretty gutted. But I'm telling you, I don't like this team. I don't like this team. What they were doing, particularly in aerial challenges, particularly in those duels, they were doing these knees in the back, knees in the side, elbows in the head, the sort of ones they could say, look, I needed to get leverage off the ground, but I'm going to leave something on you. And it was just so obvious what's happening from a footballer's point of view. And the referee... This is where referees it's a stick, because it's a tough job, right? But sometimes you can think to yourself, you know what? You haven't played. You don't know what they're doing. They're doing this on purpose, and they're making it a debate, and you're allowing them to do it. And I think it turned a game that could have been nice into an ugly game.
Yeah, well, and I do think that the lack of calls and the lack of protection begets diving, and I'm going to put diving in quotes a little bit because, I do think we saw this in another match. When was it recently where we had the 3 yellow cards for diving or whatever it was? What match was that? Huddersfield? Where,
yes.
There was just the rotational tactical fouling, and if the referee doesn't give you that protection, you're going to start going down more. You're going to start trying to get these guys cards because you can't just stand up and get kicked constantly. Now, we did give a little bit back, which I really appreciated. But, Paul, just a final thought about the way this was played. I mean, I thought Barnes should have been off before he ever had the chance to score. I thought Cork the one who went right through the ankle of, was it Guendouzi, who almost got his ankle broken? I mean, I thought that could have been a straight red, maybe a bit harsh. Barnes definitely should have been off, right? I mean, this should never have been a game to begin with.
Yeah, but they play the game and the referee got played. Kevin Friend, wasn't it?
Yes.
And look, the plus side was we made it clear that we had the lads to back it up. So, I mean, it's great to see soccer. The second half turned into the game we didn't want to play, but in the dressing room afterwards, they must have been fucking pumped because they backed those bastards up physically. One more opportunity for Kolasinac to show nobody fucks with him. Socrates is the man. You got Lichtsteiner on the pitch. Chaka's no slouch. And then you just need the little weaselly guy to kick shit off. It might have been Jack Wilshere in the past. I'm not sure if it's Torreira, Guendouzi. Maybe neither of them has quite the profile, but Guendouzi was quite good at kind of getting in and stirring it up. Now, he might have got himself into a little trouble. And maybe it's not ideal. Maybe he doesn't have the perfect profile, but you just need. It's like going out for a drink with your mates. You just need the one guy to kick it off, and for your mates to step in behind you. And maybe in a way we haven't for a few seasons. This wasn't the second half we wanted, and it played to their advantage in terms of football. But I think it played to us in the long term in terms of psychology, because you come out of this knowing you're all fighting for each other. So again, like we did against Spurs. So I think it really adds something to us.
No, I totally agree with that. I know we got to talk about Ozil and Aubameyang because they're two key figures of this game. But Clive, I'd like to give you an opportunity to talk about something else for a moment, and that is Kolasinac. This is a player who we've kind of been confused by.
We're getting worried, weren't we?
Well, we've worried that he wasn't an Arsenal player, that he couldn't defend, that maybe his lack of availability is one of the abilities we really need him to display, and he's suddenly become seemingly the fly in the ointment. The guy that makes Deus Ex Machina or whatever, the Ghost in the Machine. He is really the most creative player. I don't know. You just fucking
Deus
go with
Machina.
Fine. You say Deus Machina. I say Deus. I just fumble out some words. Whatever. It's fine. But seriously, Clive, I mean, is it an overstatement to suggest that Kolasinac has suddenly become, especially in the absence of Bellerin, really the entire key to our attack building properly and creating opportunities?
Yeah, we're a massively left-sided biased attacking team, aren't we? And again, another reason why I don't dislike the back three, and I think it sets him free. When you're playing a weaker team at home, you can play a four because he plays a role exactly the same way. And they added a extra centre midfielder, which I thought was quite smart in this game because Burnley are a very tall Anglo-Saxon team with big yeomen stomping around the pitch, and I thought it was really good to have the three of Guendouzi, Xhaka and El Neni.
I would have gone with knuckle dragon cunts, but tomato.
Like we had our taller three centre mid team, which was a perfect game for the aerial bombardment they were going to suffer, and getting the ball to Kolasinac, he can stay a bit high because we got the cover behind him, and it's the timing of his runs and the commitment of his runs. When he makes his runs, he commits 100%, and you almost have to give it to him. And I mean, on the first goal, which I'm sure you're going to touch on, the touchback he did was just beautiful, and it was meant. And he's a very interesting player. He's got feet that don't belong on that body. That makes sense.
He's a fucking force in nature, though, isn't he? I mean, on insurance policies, he's probably listed with like hurricanes and fucking earthquakes.
Yeah, he's got this. He's one of those players that transmits to the crowd quite nicely and transmits to the screen. But he also does it in a negative way as well. When he's not quite at it or not fit, we can all see it. And when he's at it, you can't take your eyes off him because he just looks so dominant. So he's one of those players that naturally divides. And sometimes, as you go for the flow of a season, players do that to you. They take you from he's got to be sold. We need two left backs to we can't do without him. And a few months ago, I'll give another one, Elliot. Granit Xhaka, for example, a few months ago, for many people, he's got to go. How's he got a contract? And he has a bit of time at the back of the defence, and suddenly we've got everybody saying, let's get him back into midfield. Why do we keep moving him?
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? I mean, we move him to a position that he's not very good at, but what we really see is how much we miss the contribution that we're no longer getting building the play. I actually thought that we needed stick with a back four yesterday, or whenever the game was. It was the day we played the game, for God's sakes. And had kept Shaq in midfield because I thought that the story of the second half was our inability to control the ball at all and maintain any possession.
Hey, before Clive moves on, I just want to compliment him on some of the best backtracking I've seen in a long time. That guy has covered his tracks like I haven't seen since that cowboy movie where the Indians are like brushing the path behind a bush. He's covered himself from all those podcasts where he slagged off Xhaka and Kolasinac in the past. Beautiful.
Yeah. Clive covered his tracks. Look,
I never slagged off Xhaka.
No.
Kolasinac, I definitely slagged off him. In fact, Xhaka, for example, I think he is the true captain of this team. And I bet you, if you spoke to the coach, which is the player you most rely on, it's definitely Xhaka. He plays every week in centre midfield when he's allowed to. When there's a problem to fix at the back, he plays there. I actually thought, I know Kolasinac was more spectacular, but just behind him in man of the match stakes for me was Xhaka, because I thought he was excellent. I thought he was physical. His passes were excellent. He was helping us keep the ball at the back. He was directing people. I tell you, mate, he is
a false 10.
He is the true captain of this team. That's what's developing this season, in my opinion.
And I'll tell you what, it's probably best to give him the armband because the captain gets a little more leeway with the referees, and he could probably use it because he's a tiny bit mental. I will say one of my favorite Kolasinac moments of the match was there was some argy-bargy, as you Brits like to say, and Kolasinac walks up to one of the guys who's trying to act all hard, like walks right up to him, and immediately the whole thing turns into, oh, we're all friends. There's no fight here. I have no quarrel with you, kind sir. He is a scary looking motherfucker. And I love it. I love that he's this weird contradiction of being this huge, hulking, intimidating figure that looks like he'd be, at the center of Burnley's defense, when in fact he's a twinkle-toed, blindingly quick going forward wingback. It's bizarre. And
I'd love to hear that he has tiny feet, like size 7s or something like that, because as Clive said,
because of the massive penis envy you have.
Yeah. Okay.
So moving on. Look, I think we should talk about Mesut Ozil here, and Paul, because we're not going to go very long today.
No.
As we've repeatedly suggested, we're 11 minutes in. We've hardly mentioned anything yet. So this is the Mesut Ozil conundrum in a way, because he had moments of sheer brilliance in this match, none greater than the pre-assist, if you will, for Kolasinac to chip back to Aubameyang to brilliantly put into the corner. It's not the vision to see it; it's the weight of it and sort of threading it past other players, and also, also the vision to see it. The vision to see it, but also not, and maybe this is partly what's wrong with Mesut Ozil, but not the instinct to just say, well, fuck it, I'm in the box, I'm going to take a shot, but to be looking for the better option. In the second half, when we struggled to maintain possession, I thought we needed a little more from Ozil in terms of getting on the ball and keeping the ball for us. We went through a period of about 20 minutes where Leno kicked long, we didn't win the first ball, they'd come back at us, and we were never able to build from the back or maintain any possession. So, Paul, for the people that struggle with Ozil, and I don't, I think he is supremely talented, but I think this match is in a way a little bit of a measuring stick for where you or a Rorschach test for how you feel about Ozil, because he provided those moments of brilliance, but maybe could have been more involved in helping Arsenal keep the ball and win the ball in the second half. So how do you tie those two things together?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's... I got into a 2-hour argument with somebody after the match on that exact topic. And it was actually longer than 2 hours. He was in South Africa, so the time difference was working against us. This thing went on for fucking ever. And then I went, because I was basically arguing.
You can mute him on Twitter at Posnan in my pants.
Yeah. So, I thought he had a really good first half for obvious reasons. And the second half, I thought he was too quiet. And then we extrapolated that across the season and his career at Arsenal and blah, blah, blah. And it goes, everybody knows the argument back and forward. And I was arguing he's too quiet when he's quiet, and you can't live with that. And then I went back and watched it, and I screwed myself over, because actually in the second half, he's pretty busy. We don't have much of the ball. If you look at our passing stats, everybody's right down. His supply line's gone, so he doesn't have Xhaka. He's playing left back. As soon as Xhaka goes into that left centre back position, Ozil's supply is cut off. The manager chooses to take him off sorry, not to take him off, to take Lacazette off and keep him on, which is kind of interesting, but I guess overall makes sense. And then Ozil has a job for much of the for late in the second half, and another kind of job earlier in the second half to kind of cover position, and he mostly does that in a very Ozil way. He kind of covers the right wing back side, if you want to call it that, forward and back, as you would expect Ozil to. The same way he covers aerial duels, he's there. He puts in a bit of an effort. When he's blocking a shot, it's not in the face. And so he played that kind of a game, but he was where he was supposed to be, giving it 85, kind of early Theo defending, but still defending and covering the space. And when I looked at, when I watched it the second time, I basically just watched Ozil because of this argument. I don't know. I can't fault him too much. He was actually pretty good in the second half. Of course, he was there for the goals, but beyond that, he was actually. If you were to go and watch him in the second half, I don't really know what you'd expect more from him or expect more generally. He might have got in.
Do you think maybe it's the shape? Do you think the fact of being in a back three and having one less body in midfield meant we couldn't build from the back, we were going long, and we just never created periods of possession, and it was more a system issue?
Yeah. And
okay.
I also think...
Let's move on.
I'll just say one more thing. I think he was better... He's certainly better than I thought he was in the second half. I couldn't fault him too much because he's not another player. He's not going to get those tackles in. But it's what I really blame him for is he puts us in this situation that if he just looked like he was doing more, if he just threw himself in a grenade every now and then, we'd shut up about maybe not all his performances, but probably 2/3 of them.
Well, I'll give you an example. There was a through ball played down the left wing that he was on the chase for, and it wound up, being shepherded out of play by one of their center backs. And I kind of thought
he overhit the pass.
Yeah, I kind of thought he was favored to get there. And so on first viewing, I was like, Ozil quit on that. And that's the kind of thing where your biases are maybe creeping in. And you're like, you know what? He quit on. But then I watched the replay and I realized he couldn't get there. But it's a classic example because he didn't sprint it through and slide for it when he was never getting there. You look at it and you're kind of like...
That's exactly what I mean about his second half. I think he had like 10 of those incidents where he wasn't wrong. He wasn't
getting
not
there.
Going to win it.
He wasn't going to win it. I will tell you that maybe he's lost a half step though, because Ozil used to have a surprising burst to him, and I thought he still looked favored in that race. And let's get Clive back in here. And by the way, Clive, I don't think he was going to get there. I was using it more as an example of how the crowd is influenced by his sort of slump of the shoulders and failure to chase after it, even though he wasn't going to get there. But sure, give me your take on the Ozil game overall. Just kind of wind your way through an explanation of it.
So all performances.
But quickly,
I can't promise that, right?
No,
all
I know.
Performances are they all delivered within the context of the game. So the first half of the game, we were more in control. We had them pushed back. Ozil was just receiving the ball in the middle to last third, with everything in front of him, and he could just combine ball pass, move it around, move people around, pre-assist on the goal, 1-0. We butcher a couple of opportunities, and we go in at half-time, with the game increasingly becoming physical. In the second half, Burnley go back to front, looking for the second ball. Everything's on the first ball. So they want to rattle us on the first ball and refill with Cork and Barnes around them, the main centre forward, and then Wood, and basically refill that space, just like Pulis did a couple of years ago. Win the second ball, and we had to get to that second ball. So we started to slow down, hence why Oneni came off. Had to bring Torreira on because we were losing the second ball. We were losing races. Now, where Ozil could have gone from a 6.5, 7 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10 was that we butchered 3 or 4 transitions in the second half. Right, so, and a lot of that was down to Lacazette, actually. I thought some of his decisions and the retention were just off. And the second goal was an example of one transition that worked, but there were 3 or 4 others. And the game was all about how can we carry it through the third? Let's fight with them. Let's move them around because they're big and lumpy. So let's not throw it in there directly because they're going to win the ball and they're going to kick it forward into areas where we don't want to be. So let's just move them around at 2-0. Let's just keep them moving. Let's work them. Eventually, they'll do something silly, slow down, and we'll get the third goal. But what happened is that they got increasingly physical. The referee allowed to get physical. That's not Ozil's game. He's waiting for the breakaways. They didn't really happen because our retain skill set at the edge of the area was pretty average. They were getting free kicks. They were getting in. Eventually they scored. So we have to continue. What I liked was we continued moving them around. We didn't panic and go into broken field play. We moved them around. When they got deep, we then broke on them. And I think if a couple of those transitions had worked out, we'd have probably looking at, well, he sort of was included in the third goal, but we were looking at a couple of assists and a 3-4-1 victory, right?
Yeah.
So, 4-5-1 victory, because I actually think that was there for us, but we were just a little bit inaccurate. So you're never going to get the same what we got in the first half when we had complete control and a tight diamond until the injuries happen. You're never going to get the same. I think the diamond really suits him. 4 diamond 2 works for him. He works for a lot of people because we can get all our favourites on there. Or 3-5-2 also works. But I thought he was okay. I thought he faded a little bit, but that was a decent 7 out of 10 Mesut Ozil performance.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about another player who sometimes gets criticized for doing nothing except the most important thing, which is scoring goals, and that's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. We have an article on our website written by Oscar Wood at Rionnawall on Twitter about Aubameyang that you should definitely read. But Paul, I don't know what else this guy has to do for people to stop, having divided opinions about him. It's another 2 goals. I thought the first one was taken brilliantly. Even if you want to say he shinned it, I still think he did exactly what he intended to do.
I agree. That was no accident.
No
accident.
I think it's
a skillful scuff, if you want to call it that, but he knew what he was doing.
Well, all right. So give me your thoughts on Aubameyang quickly.
Look, he's fucking great. He's a tap-in merchant. He's a brilliant tap-in merchant, and some of his tap-ins will be from 30 yards out. But he has a gift from the gods for that. It's not just his athleticism and his pace. He knows when. He knows where the spaces are. He's fucking great. Here's the problem people will have with him. He's not a complete striker by any means. There'll be a lot of, and so you come away from it thinking, yes, he left food on the table. He left chances. He could have done a bit, but he's not Aguero. He's not Kane. He's not, I don't know, but neither are they Aubameyang. He's going to get and score those chances. His completion rate is 25%, basically, as you would expect from the world's best tap-in merchant. But fucking don't knock it. Give him the chance to get into the box on the end of a cutback, and you will fucking clean up the league. So this was another game of that. We didn't actually create a huge amount of stuff, but we created enough for him to get 2. I thought, conversely, Lacazette also had a really good game. Contrast in what they provide. If we can find ways to play the 2 up front and Mesut Ozil, that's kind of a big ask for everybody behind them. That leaves 7 open field players to cover their asses. When we're struggling with defense and potentially midfield with yellow card issues, etc. But if we can provide enough support to them and have those 3 up front, they could have a lot of fun. I thought Lacazette was really good, even if there were issues in his game. But I think Aubameyang's superb. Just get him the cutbacks. And unfortunately, if we're losing Mkhitaryan, if Bellerin's out, Kolasinac seems to be our go-to guy. So how do you get him upfield enough to do the cutbacks? Maybe that pushes us towards 3 at the back for a while to give him the support he needs. And hopefully we'll get to talk. I know it's a short one today, but hopefully we get to talk about our friend Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who finally started giving us a glimpse of what we were hoping to see maybe over the last few games from him.
Yeah, I agree with that. Clive, do you think, how much longer does he have to just keep scoring before you'll start to warm up to Aubameyang, or still not your cup of tea, huh?
I don't rate him, actually.
I know. No, seriously, though. I mean,
I don't think he's lethal enough. I don't think he's quite quick enough. I think
he's special. He's really special. Like, it's so weird to me. This guy just he leads the league in goals right now. Yes, he's had misses, but, like, this is the Cavani syndrome, okay? And if you want to do something funny, go to understat.com. Look up Edinson Cavani. There'll be a radar in the middle. Then it'll say player to compare to. Put in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and their radar looks almost identical. And I think this happens with players whose main skill is getting a lot of great chances. That means they're going to miss.
Yeah, that's not that funny, Elliot. I got to say, not that funny.
Okay, fair point. I wouldn't know.
I actually think, obviously, the currency we judge strikers on is goals. But for me, what's impressed me, his work rate out the box is really improving, and he's taking people for runs down both sides. He's still there in the middle when you need him to be. He's working all channels across the front area, so his way of leading the line is different to Lacazette's. Lacazette's like, here's your target, play into me. I'm going to do a touch, move around the corner.
So, Clive, that was why I thought it was interesting that the manager didn't pull Ozil off and use Aubameyang on the left and Lacazette through the right, through the middle. It was an interesting choice, wasn't it? That he decided to take Ozil's work rate effectively over Aubameyang's down the left, because he could have had Aubameyang on the left and kept Lacazette through the middle when he pulled it.
I think the manager's trying to manage this player. And I think he had Xhaka there in the team. He could have made Xhaka captain quite easily, but he made Ozil captain. So not only did he brought him back, he's brought him back as captain. So I'm trying to trust you. If I take you off, that's not showing trust, right? So
he couldn't take him off. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. Yep.
And he chose to keep him on. So he is trying to manage this player. He's trying to wake him up. He's trying to say, this is what I want, and now you've done it, I'm going to trust you. So he's provided a key contribution. He had a number of transition contributions in the second half that other players butchered. And he's saying, you know what? I'm going to now trust you to be that second forward and break down the side, which I thought he'd done really, really well. So, yeah, I don't see it as an issue. I actually, I like Lacazette, but I actually think he's not quite at it at the moment. There was opportunities to take shots that he turned down. He's still very good player, by the way, right? And
he had the one frustrating ball where it came to him in the box. It was just kind of behind him too much. He tried to pull it under control and swivel on it and couldn't.
And it was just too far behind him, man. Yep. So he's just a goal away. And by the way, a few weeks ago, Aubameyang was that player, not quite there. We sort of half-gamed it, played him through it. Elliot was going mad. He's now through it.
To be fair, I'm still going mad, just about other stuff.
Yeah, right. But he's now a bit sharper. Lacazette's now not quite there, but he's coming back.
What do you make of the strop he threw when he got subbed off?
Yeah, I read what Ian Wright said, and Ian Wright's, obviously knows a thing or two about scoring goals. And he knows that late in games when those players that you've just worked their backsides off to make them tired, and then the last 15 minutes when the goals are there, the manager takes you off and you haven't scored yet. And it's like, no. And I think he turned around, if you noticed it, he wasn't so mad at the manager, he was having an argument with El Neni. Yes. So, and I watched the second half today again.
Clive, it's like when you're making love to a beautiful woman, right? And you've put in one hell of a performance, and you're just getting to the point where you're really giving her the pleasure that you and she has sought so much, and the next thing your parents knock on the feckin' bedroom door and you have to scrap the whole, he got yanked basically.
Clive, don't worry, I'll edit that out in post. Keep going.
Yeah, exactly. It's not quite Christmas yet, Paul.
Yeah.
Right? So basically, I think, El Neni and him were having an argument. So there must have been a situation in the match where he thought he could have played him in or done something.
Well,
and
if you think El Neni can play you in, you haven't been watching that player. But okay,
come on now. And so,
I think El Neni said, "Cheer up, you grumpy bastard."
Let him finish, Paul. For fuck's sake, stop interrupting the guy. God,
I'm knocking on his bedroom door.
My wife says, she listens to the podcast. She says, "Isn't it great? They interrupt you just like I do."
It is.
I thought my whole life keeps following me around.
Otherwise, how would we know when you were done?
So So yeah, I just thought he was a little bit frustrated with something that happened in the game. So what? Right, move on. These two, the only thing I worry about with these two is that they don't do a Mkhitaryan and break their foot and have 6 weeks out, right? Because we can't afford that with these two. There is no replacement. There is no way. We have not got that third striker of the right level. So as long as they stay fit and healthy, that's the most important thing.
That comes to a talking point then, and it's right back to the rotation issue with Emery. And I have to tell you, Paul, when it was 2-0 Arsenal, I did not see them getting back in it, which is maybe a little silly given the fact that our defense is like tissue paper. But he takes off the one player we can afford to run right into the ground and brings on the one guy we really kind of need to be as fresh as possible with Anfield looming. That was a head scratcher for me. Now, as it turns out, ironically, we give up a goal, and we need Torreira's defending, although I actually didn't think this was a great Torreira performance overall. I mean, he made some very important tackles and interceptions late, but
it took him 10, 15 minutes to get a tackle.
Yes, it did.
Once he did it, he was there.
He never stopped. But the point is, at that point in the game at 2-0 against a weaker team at the Emirates, were you scratching your head at the one expendable player, the only guy in the whole pitch who we can afford to have fall into pieces on the pitch? We take him off for arguably our most important piece.
Well, yeah. Plus, he's got his yellow card issue.
Well, it would have been fine if he picked up another. He would have missed Brighton, which would have been okay. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah. And Anfield just after. So that's a bit of a fucking issue. And the other thing is, the explanation for why he wasn't playing was he'd picked up, I think the word flu was used, but basically a cold, flu, which tells you, you don't pick up the flu if your system isn't run down, which goes back to our point of how hard are we running this guy. So we've been using him a little too hard, and we used him again in this game when we were 2-0 up. Now, I kind of understand it from protecting 3 points, and it's a key part of the season where you grab every 3 points you can. But yeah, I think we've got our rotation slightly. I don't want to get Clive too fired up because
I'm about
Jesus Christ, what have we done?
All right, let's just let him have Paul.
Let him go.
Clive, fire away.
The problem is we haven't got anything else like him. That's the problem. Yeah. If you look at El Neni, look at Xhaka, and you look at...
what about pragmatism? I mean, can't you try to make your way through half of a half with a 2-0 lead at home to Burnley without having to bring Torreira on for El Neni? I mean, is that too much to ask for?
It's 2-1 in the stadium, right? They're going...
Well, it was 2-0, wasn't it? It was 2-0. Yes, 2-0 when he brings Torreira on for El Neni.
But we were starting to lose that game. We were definitely starting to lose that game. And... I was thinking, crikey, we need to do something in centre midfield because we were just not getting the second balls enough. And they were getting closer and closer to getting a chance on goal. I knew because they were so rubbish around the edge of the area that they weren't working our goalkeeper hard enough. Eventually, they got a chance presented to them, basically because Torreira didn't quite go in tough enough on the tackle. We didn't quite clear our lines 3 or 4 times, and they score. And I'm thinking, I understand him coming on. I actually predicted it. Because I could see the fact we weren't getting to the second ball, creating no transitions, and they were just missing our midfield out. And so we were under a little bit of problems there. So I saw the reason why he brought him on. But then I looked around that bench. I thought, who else can we bring on the pitch that's quick across the ground in midfield, that covers the ground quickly and sharply to get to the point of the collision and the duel? And we haven't got anybody else. And that's why he's one of our most important players at the moment. That's why he's so influential to our new transition style. And so management, single point of failure, we need someone else like him so we can rotate with him. Guendouzi is not a Torreira rotation when you're under a bit of pressure in the centre of the pitch. Neither is Xhaka. They are both partners to somebody like him.
I mean, Ramsey can run around. He could have brought Ramsey on and had him. I mean, not that Ramsey's less important per se. Well, he is less important, let's be honest. But, yeah. I mean, couldn't he have dropped him in a little deeper, maybe put Ramsey on for a Guendouzi and added...
But again, without criticising, his skill is where to go once we win it. His skill isn't winning it. Once we win it, he's gone. Right, gone into the area where he needs to be to benefit us going forward and transitioning, which is quite similar to Mesut Ozil's skills, except for they're just slightly different stylistically. Ozil can carry it, whereas Ramsey does it off the ball. And so we haven't got someone that sits in there but wins those races. The only one potentially that could do it, and I'm not sure yet, is Maitland-Niles, but he was doing another job on the right-hand side. So that's the player we haven't got in this squad, and that's why he's either on the bench or starting every single game. And I think he's critical to us. So if you're looking for the summer, we need somebody else that's faster across the ground in that middle of the pitch, and preferably somebody who can carry the ball from deep areas. And I think we will. El Neni and Guendouzi are so similar that one will have to go, and then we'll buy somebody with that much speedier attribute in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, maybe so. Paul, look, let's clean up this match a little bit, and just the last little hanging fruit here. So, I mean, they only got one goal, but really their plan just seemed to be long balls, and we didn't live with it very well. It looks like they took a page out of Spurs' book when they scored their second. What was it? In the cup game, where it was a long ball from the keeper and then another ball down to Dele Alli, and it was all too easy. And they tried to follow that blueprint. Nacho Monreal comes off, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe it's just over for him. Clive mentioned on a previous podcast he's getting old before our eyes. I mean, I don't think he was very good before he came off, and he was really bad after he came off. That's a joke, by the way. Paul, do you... first of all, I mean, just really quickly, is it possible that maybe Nacho Monreal might be at the absolute end of his rope, and what on earth do we do with our defense going forward?
Yeah, I'm not willing to speculate on that because it's kind of binary, right? He either is or he isn't, and I guess we'll find out.
I mean, even when he was on, he is not the player he was. It's changed. That little step of pace he never really had is kind of gone. Now he's not great.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to be the third centre back in a three at the back formation, I think he would be good enough if he stays fit. I think he's reasonably good as a wing back, but that's where the lack of pace is going to hurt you, because from one side or the other we need cutbacks, and if it's not going to be Hector, then it has to be the other side. I guess we have Kolasinac to cover that eventuality, but when you think of the number of dependencies we have in terms of injuries, because like if you're relying on Kolasinac for fitness to give you your left wing attack, then we got issues up that chain there. And yeah, I mean, I would be, if our season depends on Monreal, I'm really worried. Have I written him off? Have I seen stuff in his actual performances that make me think he's done? No, but the number of injuries he's beginning to pile up here are concerning. It's like he gets a game or two and then there's a niggle. Good that he got out early, hopefully, and he'll be back in a game or two or three or whatever. But yeah, that's concerning. We don't have a lot of cover over that side, but maybe Maitland-Niles will start to kick in a little bit and he'll get some games on the left-hand side. We don't truly have a full-back on the left-hand side is the problem. We really have two wing-backs who can, one of whom who can kind of play the wing-back position on the left-hand side, and Kolasinac. So yeah, we've got, when it comes to the January window, we've got a number of vulnerabilities that need to be addressed.
We need a center back January 1st, literally January 1st. I mean, Clive, we've got Brighton.
And we need a wide player probably, and we need...
Well, yeah, with Mkhitaryan gone. I mean, especially, look, if Ramsey leaves in January, which I don't see how you can even let him go at this point. You're almost better losing the money and keeping him. If Ramsey goes and Mkhitaryan's gone for 6 weeks and we have no center backs, I mean... Oh boy, you might as well just change the formation, come up with something different. Clive, what should we do at center of defense for Brighton? And is it crucial that we kind of use it as an audition for Anfield? Because the thing that scares me, look, I think we can beat Liverpool. We saw that at home, but going to Anfield with the defensive options we have right now, you could suffer the kind of loss that has repercussions beyond that day. You talk about building a winning culture. You can build a losing culture really quick with the wrong kind of results. So what do we do in central defense, certainly for Brighton and with one eye towards Anfield?
We potentially could have a situation where we do have Koscielny, Mustafi and Socrates, right? So that could be our back three for Anfield with Colacini can maybe Maitland-Niles as a back five. That's not too bad, But the problem is we've got the game before, and we're so fragile, and we've got maybe even Monreal may play in that game. He may not be able to play in Brighton, but he may be able to play in the Liverpool game. So Monreal concerns me a lot. I did, when we did our season prediction, he said to me which was a player I think is going to fall off the cliff, and I did say Monreal. I saw the edges of him last year, and I think he's an issue. He's a problem. So, what can we do? We are just making do at the moment, and it's affecting how we're
don't we have to
seeing
get
everything
Xhaka
else.
back in midfield? Sorry, Clive, just to make your wife happy there. Don't we have to get Xhaka? I mean, that's the thing that scares me. Is I feel like losing him. El Neni,
but we're not. Xhaka's a better defender than El Neni, and the situation is. The manager would love to get him into midfield. He's not doing it just to hurt us.
Of course no. Clive, I didn't mean it that way. What I'm saying is, I think what we lose in midfield by not having him there is more significant than what we gain by having him in central defense instead of... So, for example, if you said to me, which would I rather have? Xhaka in midfield and El Neni in central defense, or Xhaka in midfield and Medley in central defense, or Xhaka in central defense and one of the midfield options we have now, I think Xhaka is such an important part of how we progress play and maintain possession and build, and handle what is ostensibly a two-man midfield, that I think you have to downgrade, if needed, your central defensive option to get Xhaka back in midfield, make the whole thing work more. The one thing I think Arsene Wenger was good at, to his credit, is he understood when you were firefighting, when you had injury crisis, things like that, keep as many players as possible in their natural position. And actually, where I felt critical of him the most was, if you remember the last few days of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain at the club and stuff, when he was playing like Bellerin at left wing back and Ox at right wing back and doing crazy stuff. I think the idea now should be to maintain natural positions for as many players as possible. That would be my first step. Sorry, keep going. I just think it's challenging at the moment. Monreal can't play 10 minutes without breaking down. Koscielny hasn't played for 7 months, and we've got a situation with Mustafi that hamstring's been coming, and he's finally gone. He potentially could be back. We all know what's happened to Holding. So yeah, it's just been a problem. It's just been a problem getting those defenders out there. And we were starting to improve defensively. We scored the second most goals, but our defensive numbers are not great. So for us, I think we got to say, you know what? Sometimes I always say you use a formation to get you through the phase of the season, and I quite like.
You do not. You've never said that.
I always say it to my fellow coaches at football. I say it to myself. Then, right? I always say to myself, you use a phase, and sometimes when you're lacking in a little bit of defensive confidence, the diamond's a great formation because everything's close. When you look in front, you can see no spaces in front of you. Your centre backs and your midfielders. They just cover the game by distances, and their only job is to expand the diamond when the other team switches diagonals, right? So the diamond is a sort of formation that can take you through defensive sort of insecurity. When you feel really confident again, they can go back to more expansive positional 3-5-2 type shape where you cover the wide areas with positional play and exit on the sides and go from there. So I think we're going to Brighton, another team that's going to go front to back and second ball. If you have a diamond, you have 3 tight midfielders running back for the second ball. Brighton rested Glenn Murray, who's a similar tight striker to Wood. He's a goal-scoring forward that likes the first ball, buys fouls, gets them up the pitch, set pieces, big centre-halves. That's how they play, right? Lots of crosses. What do we don't want? We don't want lots of crosses, big centre-halves get into our box, putting our tiny goalkeeper under pressure. So I think it's a first ball, second ball game, 4 diamond 2, and, people want to see Aaron Ramsey. Well, I think he'll start, and I think he'll probably start Anfield as well. But he's been rotated out, right? So I think he'll come in for the tough away games because I think he's got the right work rate for those games, and I think he'll complement Torreira and Xhaka in that central midfield with Ozil potentially just ahead, and Guendouzi, in my opinion, should sit. And off the bench with Iwobi off the bench, and we have the 2 guys up front, and I think that sort of makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that because you've said it and you're a far wiser man than myself.
Even I say it to myself on occasions. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally true. By the way, I think Brighton will be out without one of their central defenders who got red carded in their last match.
Lewis Dunk. Good player.
Love it when the players at the smaller teams just sort of accidentally pick up red card bans for the Boxing Day.
There was a big rumor that if Wenger was staying, he was signing for Arsenal. By the way, Lewis Dunk.
Interesting. Well, I'll tell you something. I have thought that Burnley were more interested in trying to get Boxing Day off than win this match early on. But Paul, I mean, how would you address the defense for the next game and with an eye towards Anfield and maybe in like 2 minutes or less?
I have no fucking clue. We got so many moving parts.
I feel so sorry for Emery because he comes into this big club to be the manager, the coach of this big club, and it's not even Christmas, and he's down to one central defender. Socrates.
Yeah.
That's it. One. Yeah. Holding's done for the season. Mustafi's out.
Who was fantastic, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, Socrates we have not properly credited him. Yeah, and doing everything that's needed to hold together the most ramshackle backline. But seriously, Paul, what's your solution for the defense? Maybe we just go with like a 1-5-5 formation or something.
Well,
or 1-5-4.
Our weakness at centre back says we're playing three at the back in my book. We might do something very similar in terms of a three at the back, three in midfield, Ozil and two strikers. That'd be kind of fun. Socrates is going to be our central defender. Lichtsteiner, do reassure me he hasn't been injured since I last thought about this, but Lichtsteiner on the right. As I think I said very early in the season, I think he'll make an excellent fucking centre back. In the same way Monreal came in and learned that position, Lichtsteiner has more attributes for that position than Monreal ever had. So he's my hot tip for, we accidentally found a centre back. So I think he'll play on the right. I don't know what we do on the left, which means Xhaka. Because I can't see Socrates and Lichtsteiner as the two centre backs, so I think we're going to be three at the back.
Yeah. Oof. Well, it
allows. You see, what that definitely allows us to do is get Kolasinac way up the pitch for Cutbacks FC, which is currently our only way of attacking because we've no other way of getting width. And we don't come through the middle. So I think it's not to spoil Tim Stillman's video preview, but this is the only way we can play.
See, I think what I'd like him to do...
You're wrong.
Look, we don't have three center backs. We don't. We don't even have two. But what we did early in the season to cut down attacks through the middle is not back three. We didn't start with a back three this season. What we did to try to cut down our vulnerabilities down the middle was that we packed the middle of the pitch. And we played this very tight box in midfield that cut out central spaces and attacks through central spaces. And I just think, look, we need Xhaka in midfield. So go with Socrates and Lichtsteiner at center back. Go with Kolasinac. I get it. He's not really a fullback, but needs must. And Maitland-Niles on the other side. And then pack the back line. Xhaka, Torreira, Ramsey, Ozil, Aubameyang, Lacazette. Go with something like that. I realize it's very narrow. I realize it lacks width, but it protects the spine. It protects central spaces from vulnerability. And then you just kind of hope you can make do out on the wings. And that's kind of your best bet.
Diamond two.
I hope we have a tight box.
Yeah, look,
this team, even that is, if we can upgrade the personnel, 4 Diamond 2 suits this team so much, right? So yeah, we got to get there.
The challenge there, Clive, to be fair, is if you go that way, you can't really afford to bomb your fullbacks all the way up the pitch. And that means Kolasinac has to be a little more pinned back, which is, that cuts off your creative options.
You get them on the seesaw, right? One goes, one stays back, and that's the way it goes. So I think Maitland-Niles is not someone that runs through lines proactively off the ball. He's more of an underlapper, like Lauren used to be. He's sort of a midfielder that plays right back, so he's all like short passes. Ooh. Right, so I'm not comparing the player because obviously Lauren has done fantastic and one of the best right backs we've ever had, but he was a centre midfielder that actually went to right back, and you can tell by the way he played. It's all wall passes, short midfielder pipe passes to get into those wide areas. Whereas Kolasinac is far more. There's a line, I'm running through it now. Give me the ball now, type player, and so it's much more penetrative. So Maitland-Niles stands there, give me a pass, I can keep it, back to you, work the space, in we go. And so he's a slightly different style. So I don't see any reason why they should be both high up the pitch at the same time.
Yeah,
like Bellerin has got a similar style to Kolasinac. He can do both. If let's be fair to him, he can combine and he can run through lines. And sometimes when you have that running power, all you want to do is get it off quickly. Right? And I think let's see how Maitland-Niles does. Second or third Premiership start for the season. So he's going to be playing. I think Bellerin's done till the new year. So it should be good.
Yeah, great. No advertisement for you today. Just straight 50 minutes of spit and fire, interruptions. Humor.
Do you want me to talk about
jokes.
ladies' underwear?
You've already done your part, man. We're good.
Really?
Yeah, let's do. By the way, just one last quick thought. Iwobi gets the winner. Great for him. Needs some end product. Hopefully lifts him. No celebration, really. It was weird. I mean, do we think he's just so down on himself at this point that he's like, thank fuck I finally scored?
No.
Like reading into anything about that?
Yeah.
You are? What are you reading into it?
I'm reading nothing. I think it was fine. I think it was game done. I think that's
fair enough. Yeah. Well, good enough. All right. So we'll leave it there. Look, it's a Boxing Day fixture against Brighton, and then it's Anfield, so it's going to be an interesting time. Tim will be over on Patreon with a preview video for the Brighton game. We'll be back with a pod after that, and it's just all happening right now. If you are of a good age and you play center back, wouldn't kill you to direct message the club, just saying. In any event, my name's Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Give us a 5-star review. Write nasty things about us in the comments. Paul, thank you. He's on Twitter at @PosNewMyPants.
Yeah, no need to watch Tim's video preview. I pretty much gave you the...
Paul,
sorry.
That's on Patreon. We want people to go to Patreon. You've blown it again. Clive's on Twitter at ClivePAFC. Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
From all of us at Arsenal Vision post-match podcast, and contributors like Hada Aziz and Laszlo Fulop and Oscar Wood and Tim, obviously, and Scott, we wish you a very, very Merry Christmas if you are celebrating Christmas, and even if you're not, we wish you a very happy and prosperous time. We hope that you are well and healthy and get to spend some time with family and drink too much and eat too much and get everything you want, including 3 points for the Arsenal. Clive, trying to interrupt me. I'm not letting it happen, but go ahead, Clive. Final thought?
No, I just wanted to say, right, generally we try as a group to interact with everyone that interacts with us on Twitter, and I got to say we are very, very lucky to have the listeners that we have.
Fuck
99.9% of them are all really, really thoughtful when they respond, and I think we're very lucky.
You're only saying that because they like. You're only saying that because they like you. You should see what they say about me.
When you put yourself out there, they can say anything just to upset anybody, but they don't, right? And I think we're very.
Now if you are listening to this right now, we love you. If you're signed up on Patreon, we love you, whether you're not or you are. We do appreciate you. It is a delight to be able to come and do this after every match with these intelligent and quite understanding individuals who have to put up with me. And thank you, dear listener, for putting up with me and all of us. And as I said, a very, very Merry Christmas to you and yours. Very happy and healthy holiday. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10 right now.